So guys, welcome to this week's Property Management Mastermind. And one of the things that I'm excited about today is we're going to hear from one of our own, none other than Silvana from the Gallagher Kelly group. Have I got that right, Silvana? Is that the right way of setting the scene? Yeah. And one of the things that we wanted to do through the Mastermind series is to share some of the great things that are happening around the network. And I think, Silvana, you've been in property management for how long now?
30 yeyears, Michael.
No, it's not possible. You're too young and gorgeous. You're too young for that.
Stop it.
Yeah. So for 30 years, and I just have got a wealth of knowledge. But what I love about you is that you have this ability to still see things from a fresh point of view. Because I think there's someone who's been in the business for 30 years and they're in that mode, we've always done it this way kind of thing. Whereas you're looking for how do we improve? How do we take it to the next level? In fact, I love your, as an agency, you have a saying around change, and that is change is messy, then it's beautiful. Embrace the change, embrace the mess.
That's right.
So it's understanding that's normal in the change process. And, things have been a bit messy even in the last, month or two with having to create new systems and new processes and putting things into play. How have you found that within the team and within the business? And maybe we'll just sort of start a general conversation that way, and then we'll get into some specific techniques and tools that you guys have created.
Yeah.
For the team.
Thanks for that intro, Michael. Yep. Look, although I've been in the industry for 30 years, and obviously it's all been through at Gallagher's, I've had the ability to sort of keep an open mind about change and making things better. Most of my procedures are put together when something happens. So they're built around, a situation. And this one's been probably the biggest challenge, the COVID-19. So none of us knew where it was all going. We didn't have procedures in place, and they altered as we went week by week. So, every week I'd be online gathering as much information as possible. And we got to the 9th version of a PMP around rent relief. So it was, I almost got a little scared telling my assistant in the Philippines, can you change this again? Now it's this, but it's an awesome setup, and it is flowing really nicely with the team. Our outsourcing team does most of the administration back end support for the property managers or relationship managers here, which is given them the ability to have those nice conversations with the clients, tenants and landlords, and then all the formalities are done on the back end. So it's been awesome in that respect. Even to the point where our team are getting compliments from their existing landlords to say that they've had properties elsewhere, a little bit out of our area, and could you manage the property for me, because the agency don't have a good system in place to handle rent relief. So we've actually obtained some new business from existing landlords, a little bit out of our area, but and we've taken them on with rent relief requests.
Yeah, so that's interesting. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
So along those lines, the first question is, how have you gone with team training and changing the dialogue? Because if a hailstorm comes through, we sort of know what we're dealing with. This was that example where we sort of didn't know where we were going and what we were dealing with next.
Exactly.
So how did you keep the team engaged and informed with that? And I guess the other question that I've got is, what percentage of the rent roll has actually, come to, not necessarily gone ahead, but actually gone and requested rent relief?
Rent relief, yeah. So I've got the stats on that too. Look, it was a matter of me going and getting the information, participating in webinars, and then bringing back a snapshot to the team. So it was just assuring them and filtering through the information as required. I've personally never felt closer to my team than now, and really really aware of what's going on within the portfolios. We've been We do a morning whip at about 9:15. And then it's a quick half an hour, and it's quite a big team, so we run through that quite efficiently. And it's, we review our challenges from yesterday, what's on the plan for today, and if anyone needs some assistance. So it's a matter of them voicing what challenges they have in the day, and it's not necessarily me guiding them through how to manage it. Other team members are stepping in, so it's giving them an opportunity to help each other out. At the end of the day,
and can I just jump in on that? You've got to have a level of safety in the team to be able to say, hey, I've got an issue with this, or something, a concern with this.
Yeah.
But as soon as you get that safety, and like, oh, it's safe to be able to say, I've got an issue with this, and you don't have someone in the team saying, really, you've been a problem manager for this long and you've got that problem.
Yeah.
As soon as you get over that kind of concern that people have, the speed at which you can create change and deal with issues, because people just table them.
Yeah, it's been a real honest platform, and I've been really transparent and saying, look, guys, I don't know, I don't have all the answers. I've been in the game for a long time, but at the moment, I'm in the same boat as you guys. So it's been a real honest platform, and I don't believe anyone in our team hold back in sharing any of their challenges. Mm-hmm. It just empowers them to get through them, actually, and we get through them really efficiently because we are voicing them.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So utilizing that as a training top up. Are you having dedicated training sessions as well?
Yes. So we have our usual PM and Lisi new business catch up on Wednesday mornings, and that generally goes for an hour and a half. There's a little bit of training in that as well. Updates of what's happening with change. I've held that space up until now because the team was so focused and I guess a little bit frazzled with what was going on with the COVID-19. So I've managed to hold that space, but now I am handing it back to the team where we have a rotating host. A team member hosts the meeting and puts together some training material, and then they vote someone else in for the week after. So I obviously participate in that. So that's a bit of training. Obviously the platforms like this one, most team members do sit in when where possible, and we're always encouraging to watch the playbacks where they're not able to participate. I mean, we've got webinars on Fridays with the REI. Most of the time I'm watching them on playback, and I might bring that information back to the group.
Yeah.
Or some of them are watching them on playback as well. And at the end of the day, we do a daily WhatsApp wrap. And, what were our wins for the day? What were our challenges? And what's the focus for tomorrow? And it's almost like a little therapy session, like, because we're so in damage control, we're not recognizing all our wins. So when you're actually typing it in, you think, oh, okay, well, yeah, I actually had a really good run today. I conquered some goals. And for us at the moment is, how many rent reliefs can we actually put in the bag and pack away, which is, a really big achievement for the team. For the Gallagher team alone, we've got 29% of our rent roll in request. And for the Kelly's team alone, I believe it's somewhere around the 23%. So it's a big volume. Like, Gallagher's alone, there's over 250 applications.
And what are you thinking out of those 250 will actually end up being, rent relief in some particular way?
Yep. So what our procedure is, as soon as a tenant expresses they've been affected, we go into that complaints marketing mode, where we're really sorry you're affected. Immediately an application goes out requesting what's required. Most of the time that'll filter through and won't come back because tenants will think, oh, okay, well, this is probably a little bit too hard, or I don't fall in that bracket. And then the ones that are put forward, we review to see if they've got all their supporting documents submitted. We are really transparent. We're on the phone and we actually tell the tenant, look, thank you, we've got your information, or we need this and this still. What our job now here is to refer back to the original tenancy application to compare what information you've put forward to what was originally put forward. And what that is doing is weeding out those tenants that are not being completely transparent about what they actually got in their bank book. Because at the beginning, they're really super excited and they're giving us all this information when they're applying for the property. And we've revealed a lot of interesting facts. So, you know, where tenants have got $360,000 in their bank and they're asking for rent relief. Oh, yeah. Nobody, it's not going to happen. So then you've got the other layer where it's genuine affected by COVID-19. Then we jump in on the phone with the landlord, and it's pretty much this is what we've got. What's your situation? What does it look like for you if we, you know, offer this to the tenant? Whilst we're on the phone with the landlord, we're also discussing landlord insurance. For the ones that we pay on their behalf, we know which ones we can use landlord insurance for. And also we're offering a service now where they can apply for a rebate on land tax. So we've got a really good association with a valuer, and for a small fee, for the landlords that have properties managed by us, they're able to apply for that land tax assessment. So we do that all for them with a consent, which has been really helpful for landlords.
There's a lot of value add coming through in this, you know, so it's not just, hey, rent relief, here we go. It's, by the way, here's a couple of other options that I think are worthwhile exploring or worthwhile looking at. Would you like us to act on that? Would you like us to activate that now? Or, you know, would you prefer to leave that a little later?
Yeah.
Which I like. On this mode with the landlords, I mean, this is the tenant communication and the landlord communication. Are you guys doing much video?
Yeah, we're doing a lot of walkthrough videos for the leasing side of things. A couple of our managers are doing walkthrough file inspections with their landlords, which has been really positive, where landlords can't obviously be on site and they're still able to view the property. So that's really helpful. Lots of Zoom meetings, face-to-face meetings. So we, you know, the fact that we can't get in front of them is not holding us back. So we're getting a lot of leverage on that. I'm jumping into a lot of negotiating and support to the team for clients that are being challenging. So we're doing three-way conversations because we're not in front of each other, and that's been really positive and constructive. So we're getting some really good results around that. So
Silvana, what's the escalation process there? Because I think one of the things that can happen is if I'm a junior property manager, or I haven't been in it that long, and I'm dealing with a portfolio and it's coming at me left, right, and centre, and you know, you're saying sort of 20+% are going for some kind of rent relief. What's the escalation process to come to yourself as a senior, or you know, the head of the department?
Yeah.
From that point of view.
So our morning whips are obviously an opportunity to discuss any concerns or challenges, but I've been really transparent with all team members from get-go. I mean, not only around COVID-19, is that if they have a challenge, that they're able to come to us and express that, nip it at the butt, so we can resolve it straight away. And it's okay for them not to know how to handle something.
Yeah.
And when they need some deal support from myself personally, or a couple of the team leads in the PM department, you know, we can jump in. So I've had to lean into the team leads as well, because I can't cover it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, no, they're all like really positive when we're meeting and they've got challenges. There's just like, yep, you know, who's next kind of thing. So no one holds back, which is really proud of them.
So guys, the word resolution, if you say it really fast, you know, resolution, but if you slow it down, it's a re-solution. So it's actually about how do you re-solution this? And quite often what can happen, and so I'm loving what you're saying, Silvana, is that I can sit in something and I can't re-solution it. I can't reach resolution because I've got my level of thinking. You can come in and that's either with the client or maybe just some additional input that will give me a new perspective or a different way of actually handling it. But that, you know, I'm massive on having a second voice, you know, third party or a second voice coming into a situation saying, hey, let me just quickly run through where we're at with this, or what's your understanding, or let me give you a slightly different view around it. Just on video, and it sounds like you may or may not be utilizing this yet. One of the things that I love is when the senior or the head of the department is doing a video out and saying, here's what we're seeing at the moment, e.g., and that going out to all landlords. So as an example, if you think about it, you've just talked about saying we've got 20+% who have inquired with that. We've got a dedicated process that we're going through. And you could even do two, one to the ones that have been affected and ones that haven't had an impact. So you know, they know you're across it. Yeah. What I like about that, when it's a senior person who's doing it, it means you're setting this neat base of a communication platform. So I can then have a conversation on top of that base, as opposed to if you don't have that, there's no base upon which to have the conversation.
Yeah, we've got to get better at that. And I'm going to be completely honest, we've had 2 sessions booked with our marketing team member, and we've just bumped it off. Just making the time for it.
Can I show you what you need to do it?
Yeah. Yes, yeah.
Yeah. This little device here has a 4K video camera in it.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, the big ones that used to sit around like this, that's got that in it. So
that's my goal. By next week, I'm going to present to you one of my videos. There you go.
Outstanding. Love your work. Love your work. Awesome. So I know you've developed a really cool spreadsheet operational system to flow through this. By the way, guys, as we're going through this, if you've got any questions that you'd like to ask Silvana that are relevant to what you're going through around this, that'd be great too. Just pop the questions through into chat. But you know, by all means, share your screen if you want to go through and
sure.
Look at that.
This is our flow chart. Can everyone see the screen?
Not yet. So the green share button at the bottom.
Yeah, I thought I did that.
And then select the screen.
Share. Got it. How's that?
Screen share is go.
Done.
Excellent.
So this is the final version of our workflow for rent relief requests. So basically it starts from the initial tenant inquiry, acknowledgement. All these are our template codes. So the team can, so there's a template for basically every scenario. So it's quick for the support team to respond on behalf of the relationship managers, so we can keep moving through it. And there's a touch point. So basically, it's initial inquiry, acknowledgement, then there's reminder notices put in the system to follow up the tenant. So we don't just send the application and wait for them to respond. We actually follow it up. And how you're going with it, will you be pursuing or withdrawing, and so on. Then there's notification that goes out to the landlord, and there's obviously a conversation that goes that's had with the relationship manager and the landlord. It either goes to a couple of scenarios that yes, the landlord agrees on rent relief or rent rebate. Some landlords are agreeing to have that amount not paid back. So then that goes into a different workflow to our accounts team. And then some landlords are saying, yes, I can rent relief, but it'll have to be paid back in means of arrears. So then that goes into another workflow. And then obviously there's the decline request, and there's also the withdrawal, that kind of sits in the decline. There is if it falls into the yes, I agree, there is a review state as well, because some of the landlords have said, look, I can afford to do it for 2 months, but let's talk about it when the 2 months is up, where the tenant stands, and then let's discuss a way moving forward. So it's pretty full on, because, and you've got to stay on top of it, because it can affect the accounts, it can affect the lease, and so on. One thing I didn't mention in the scenarios before, we've even had the opportunity to assess the tenant's application, and they've come to a realisation that, well, really they don't qualify for rent relief or rent rebate, but a little bit savvy, they know there's a lot on the market, so then they go into renegotiating their lease and say, well, actually, we know there's a lot of stock available. Would the owner consider another 12 months lease at a cheaper rate? You know, because they've been somewhat affected by income, and it'll be a lot more comfortable if the rent was a bit cheaper. So they're really doable. And then when we're on the phone with the landlord, we're basically weighing up the options. And of course, it's case by case. In terms of which way we approach it, where we feel it's highly recommended for the client, we'll say, yes, definitely consider it. These are your options. If the tenant was to vacate, we are actually offering incentives around leasing at the moment, where the first 3 months or the first 6 months is at a reduced rate, and then we build in a rent increase. And obviously we're qualifying tenants around the capacity at the higher rate. So we look at that scenario. If the tenant was to vacate, they need to consider a vacancy factor, letting costs, and a cheaper rent. But if we reduce the rent by a certain amount, this is the end dollars. I did a little example that I wanted to share. So I had one where the tenant was requesting rent relief, and then when we did the maths, he didn't actually qualify of a 25% loss. And he said, well, my lease is coming up. Can I negotiate a cheaper rent if I lock in for 2 years? Well, I actually negotiated it down to 1. So I said to the landlord, if, where are we? Oops, sorry.
So Silvana, what you've done here is effectively you've done and I love this negotiation technique, by the way, guys. It's called what if you do, what if you don't?
Yeah.
Okay? So what if you do take it? Where does it land you? What if you don't? Where does it land you? And I think one of the key things is that sometimes we think it's got to be our decision. In this case, it's like, no, what my responsibility is to present to the owner in the most effective way. Here's what if you do take this, you know, we do a rent review on the property in a downward direction. Where does it take you in 12 months versus what if you do?
Yeah.
What if you don't take it? Here's what we're actually up for. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. So, I mean, in this situation, if the tenant was to vacate, that client will be losing approximately $10,000.
Yeah.
Based on the the experiences we've been having with all the lettings,
Yeah.
versus I think we.
So that's actually the days that it'll be on market, plus you almost would suggest that there could be a rent, the rent might need to drop
That's
to
right.
make it attractive. One of the pieces of dialogue, guys, that I'm loving at the moment is it's important that we make your property the most attractive in the market at that particular price point. Yeah, great.
Yeah, so that's been really helpful. So I've actually jumped into some team support with negotiating some of the rent reliefs, only because we had to. We did a internal restructure of our team when COVID-19 hit, and there was a little bit disruption to add on top of the crisis. So we had a team member who was away. He was stuck in Vietnam, and obviously we said goodbye to a couple of other team members, and we used that opportunity to rejuggle the portfolios, and that was just our high management plan moving forward. So I carried a one portfolio until we sort of reset the portfolios up with each team members. So and then I nursed it right through. So because I touched it, I basically dealt with it we got a resolution and an agreement at the end. So I've only got one more to go, and then I'm released.
Ooh, very, very good.
Yeah, I didn't dump it, and landlords were really grateful that I was actually doing that on behalf of for them. They were quite happy to hear from me. Were reassured because I was dealing with it personally, and I said I'll nurse it right to the end, and then I'll pass it on to the PM that I'm going to assign to you.
Yeah, that's great. Now, is there anything else you want to share from a screen point of view? Because if not, we might end screen share.
Yeah, perfect.
Come back to you. So guys, this has been fantastic, giving us an understanding around that. Would you guys be interested to get that flow chart that is massively impressive? That's a flow chart, the if thens and so on, which is brilliant. So we're getting a yes. Silvana, would you mind popping that through, and we'll pop it onto the knowledge base?
Yes, absolutely.
Which is great, and then we'll send you guys a link on that. Melinda Blake is asking a question. Are you charging a COVID-19 fee for the added services?
I didn't tell you. Yes.
Negotiation, land tax applications, etc.
So not on the land tax applications, but where the landlords have agreed on a rent reduction, no payback, we are charging them a rent renegotiation fee, right? Because we've actually compromised our management fees during that period, and obviously mindful that we need the resources to push through. So we've wrapped it around a rent negotiation fee. So where it wasn't, we weren't able to charge that in the existing management agreement, we've requested the client to sign an amendment to their management agency agreement. So we are still getting paid the same management fee.
Right. Okay. So, and how's that been perceived by the landlords?
80% really good, and a very small percentage where clients are not understanding it, and it's a matter of the script and the dialogue that's delivered to the client. So the team know as soon as they get a challenge that they let us know. It's either myself or Sula, the other team leader for the Kelly's team. She jumps on the phone and has a three-way conversation with the client, and we explain what is it that we're actually doing for that fee. It's not management fee, it's rent renegotiation fee.
Okay, so can I be the landlord who says, hey, look, I don't get it. Why on earth should I be paying you more? I'm going to be earning less, and you want to pay me more. Silvana, I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, some of them are saying, well, you know, everyone else is taking a hit. You guys should take a hit too.
Okay.
So
Well,
this is where you need our expertise to negotiate the best possible outcome for you, Mr. Landlord. And the way we do that is by creating a good system, and we'll follow up that system and with the tenant in terms of where they are. We are the buffer between you and the tenant, so we're able to negotiate a better outcome for you. And you know, there's a lot related to those negotiations. There's a big procedure around implementing that rent relief.
Yeah, yeah. And look, I don't know if you're using it, but it looked like there was easily there's easily 21 steps that we're taking. So you know,
well, I love that. Yeah.
My dialogue upgrade around that would be, look, there's a 21-point procedure that we're doing behind the scenes to activate and ensure that you're covered in the most impressive way. For us, this is outside of our normal management fees. So I'm sure you'll understand that we want to make sure we're putting the attention and detail into to put that in play. Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Just a little dialogue upgrade in there. Marissa Adams asked a question: what are you doing if a tenant is declined in terms of rent reduction and are not paying rent? Okay. In other words, they've gone into sort of like a holding pattern, or they're being, you know, a little bit arrogante in terms of what they think they can get away with.
Yeah, we've not had anyone like that.
Didn't Scott Morrison say that I don't have to pay my rent for 6 months and you can't evict me?
Yeah, well, so it's a matter of determining whether they have been, establishing whether they've been affected by COVID-19.
Yeah.
That's the challenge. If they're not presenting the documentation around that, well, then they're not affected by COVID-19.
Yeah.
So then we are going into a termination. So we had, I think, 2 last week where we've had to serve a termination around arrears. Tenants just not responding, not being cooperative. So yeah, just usual termination.
Yeah, but they can't leave. They can't be taken out of the property.
Well, from what I understand is if they're not affected by COVID-19, if they're affected by COVID-19, you can't exercise a termination. Well, you can't exercise an eviction as well.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So that's a really good point around it. What I do like though is the initial process is, hey, we're on your team. Let's get an understanding of your situation. Have you been impacted? And I love your on your flowchart. You use the word the impact. Yeah. So have you been impacted by this financially in a negative way? I mean, everyone's been impacted in some particular way, but I need to get an understanding of what your financial impact has been around this. Okay. Well, given that that's the situation, you don't qualify for this. You know, let's move on, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Marissa, does that answer your question? So, I think this has been great. What do you guys think? I'm just going to go to the screen where I can see all of these. Thumbs up, guys. Yeah. Excellent. Let's go into some breakout rooms now for about 10 minutes. I'd love you so 3 things in the breakout. Number 1, no negativity in the breakout. So you've got to be positive in the breakout. What did you like most about what Silvana actually went through? And is there anything that you can take and apply with the team? Could be around the training, could be around the videos, could be around the process and systems, or some dialogue, or escalating, or the morning whip meeting, or the end of day. And then, so it's the second thing. And the third thing is, are there any other tips that you're utilizing that are making a difference from that point of view? So, and what I love about this is yes, I know you're doing a lot of support to the team from an emotional point of view, but we're doing it out of strategy. So you can support people emotionally and like, you know, they're there, how are you? Or you can support them out of strategy. What you're doing here and what this conversation has been about is we're supporting people with strategy. Strategy, morning meeting. Strategy, having a dedicated process. Strategy, having great dialogue. Strategy, having a second voice coming in or a senior person coming in to deal with it. Strategy, getting a video out to landlords. So you put that into perspective, that's all strategy that actually deals with the emotional management. So we can stick with the emotional management, drama hook it, which by the way, I'm not downplaying the emotional management that we need to have with this. And, you know, back to what Fiona Blaney talked about is the bubble. And I talked about the sea breeze. So not taking it on board personally, but there's been really, really neat around that. So no negativity. What do you like most and that you can take and apply, and any other tips that you can share with your colleagues. Breakout rooms, here we go. Two things when we go to breakout rooms, guys. You need to join the breakout room and then make sure you unmute your microphone. And let's do a 7-minute breakout. See you shortly. Thanks, guys. Join the breakouts. Fantastic opportunity to hear from you and for you to share what's working and what you're taking on board. Love to get your feedback, guys. So please don't assume I'll wait for other people to actually give feedback. I'd like to hear from you, either what you discussed in the breakout or the key things you're going to take away and apply from there. And I know I might be selling you on the fact of going over to your computer and starting to type in along those lines. I know some of you might be on your phones and that's a little more difficult, but I'd like to hear what were your biggest takeaways from today. Great, Phil. Great session. Really enjoyed the breakout and love the idea of the flow chart. Yes, Phil. Totally agree. Thank you for that.
Can I nominate Josh in our group to talk about what we spoke about in our little session with Naomi? They're from the same office in Victoria.
Yeah, great. Josh, thanks for volunteering like that. I'll just...
So Josh, we were saying that we really love this one-on-one, and also you've got your first NCAT application.
Yeah, Josh, do you want to just talk through that?
Yeah, we were just talking about in Victoria, we got our VCAT application in for eviction under the temporary measures. So we're just curious to see how that's going to go. So, yeah, in Victoria, they're doing a termination order and then possession. So, yeah, just waiting for a hearing date just to see how that's going to turn out. But I shouldn't be excited about it, but, you know, excited to see where it's going to, hopefully, that we can evict in this situation. So,
yeah, we want to hear about it.
Yeah, definitely. Paula loves the rent renegotiation fee. Marissa's loving your process. So thank you, Silvana. Love the flow chart. Thanks, Kathy. Like the dialogue with the landlords and deferments. Great. Very informative, very structured process flow. Yeah. And I think this is the thing with it. It wouldn't have started like that, would it, Silvana? It's built as the layers came through.
Yeah.
And one of the key things with processes, guys, is that sometimes we can get into this mode. So thanks, Josh, by the way, for that update. We can get into the mode of saying, hang on, our system's not perfect, so therefore we won't do anything. And, you know, I've often asked at Business Growth Workshop is, a system's easy to create or hard to create? And most people think systems are hard to create. So therefore, we could put a new system in place. We have this mental block that gets attached, as opposed to, no, it's easy to put a system in place, particularly if we're okay to start it rather than it being perfect the first time around, which is great. Have you got any tips with that, Silvana, that you've done?
Yeah, I guess probably one of my strengths is that I really know how to map through a system. And don't get me wrong, I did not do this on my own. Definitely knew how to map it out, but the team gave a lot of feedback around the process. So obviously when you put in place a process, once you trial run it, it's got some, maybe some clunks. And you know, our managers, some of our relationship managers going, well, what about this? You know, we probably need to create a template around this, and we need to tweak this one. It's not clear. Get it. So it's adjusting it along the way. So everyone's happy with the way it reads. But yeah, look, I think it's been really positive for the team. It's reassuring. Like I said, it's been reflected. Clients have seen it, felt it on the experience on the other end.
Yeah. I think that's really great. The other thing I'll say, guys, is that in Microsoft Word, in PowerPoint, and in the Google apps, you do have some cool flow charting capabilities within there. So, you know, and if you do a search on flow charts, you'll see some ways to be able to bring that up to speed. Cindy is saying, love value add, the land tax and the insurance. Yeah. Yes, that's not just all bad news. It's like, okay, let's look at what we can do around this. Thanks, Silvana from Sheridan. Great information and love the idea of value adding to the clients. Awesome. Hey guys, it's been great having you here on this particular session. I just want to acknowledge, and we'll give Silvana a round of applause. So everyone, round of applause, guys. Silvana, yay. Hands are coming up and so on. Silvana, it's just been great having you on board, and I can just see your calm through the storm that you're actually providing for the team, and I'm sure they're loving it and everything that you're putting in place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for allowing me to share.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.